Hello and welcome to another edition of Spartan Sports Report. I'm Miriam Bingham.
And I'm AJ Evans. Miriam, it's been an ice-cold week here in East Lansing, but the Spartans were able to bear the freezing conditions, and there was a huge game on Friday night in the Breslin Center. I know you were there to cover it. How did it go?
Well, AJ, it was a late-night matchup for men's basketball against Villanova. Let's take a look. Coming off a big game against Kentucky on the road, the Spartans returned back home on a hot streak against Villanova. Coming into the first half, the Spartans hit 8 threes, with Joey Hauser leading the way with 10 points. Going into the second half, they led by 10. But an up and down second half, as their lead went from 16 to as little as 2, with a little bit of time on the clock. The Spartans needed someone to hold down the ship, and that Spartan was Tyson Walker. He finished the night with 22 points and 5 assists. The final score here at Breslin Center, 73-71, with the Spartans on top. For Spartan Sports Report, I'm Miriam Bingham.
I was very impressed on film with Villanova and in person. I told my team before the game it'll be the toughest team we play all year as far as physically tough, and they were every bit of that.
Michigan State improves to 3-1 overall. Today, the Spartans surged up 14 spots into the Associated Press Top 25 poll for the first time this season, making their debut as the number 12 team in the country. They received the most votes out of any school outside the top 25. They're now the second highest ranked team in the Big Ten. The Spartans will hit the road this Thursday to Portland, Oregon, where they will face Alabama in the Field Night Invitational. You can catch the game on ESPN.
The Spartan football team hosted Indiana on Saturday. It was Michigan State's final home game of the season, and they needed one more win to earn a bowl berth. It was a chilly afternoon here in East Lansing on Saturday. Students in the deep end were tossing snowballs, having a great time with each other. And we start in the second quarter with Peyton Thorne throwing it left to Elijah Collins, and it bounces off his hands into Malik Carr in the end zone. MSU held a commanding 24-7 lead at halftime. It was all fun and games for Sparty and everyone at Spartan Stadium. Kenneth Walker III was in attendance and watched his former teammate Elijah Collins break free here for 31 yards for his second touchdown of the game. This put the Spartans up ahead 31-14. It was all Hoosiers for the rest of this one though. In the fourth quarter, Josh Henderson plunges through for 6 and the extra point tied it at 31. The score remained tied in overtime as both teams had kicks blocked in the first OT. Sean Shivers plows through here to give the Hoosiers a 39-31 lead after a 2-point conversion. And the last pass from Peyton Thorne to Jaden Reed is incomplete, and Indiana pulls off the stunner in double overtime. Here's Zach Beavers with more from Spartan Stadium.
It was senior day here in Spartan Stadium, and it was a frigid afternoon. Indiana Hoosiers came into town to take on Michigan State on senior day. It was so cold, even Zeke was bundled up. Spartans took a 24-7 lead into the halftime. But in the second half was a different story. Indiana ran up and down the field against the Spartans, tallying 257 yards total on the ground. They scored 24 points in the second half to the Spartans 7, tied it up, sending it into into 2 overtimes. In the first overtime, both teams had their kicks blocked. So heading into the second overtime, Indiana scored first with a run-in by Sean Shivers and then a 2-point conversion that was successful. In the Spartans' possession in the second overtime, they couldn't find a way to push the ball into the end zone. The final score would end up being 39-31. It was a bittersweet senior day for all the seniors, and especially Elijah Collins, who had 100 yards on the ground and 2 scores. He was visibly emotional after the game, knowing that this was his final game in the woodshed. Here in a frigid Spartan Stadium, I'm Zach Beavers.
Next week, the Spartans have a date in Happy Valley as they take on Penn State in their final regular season game. The winner will take home the Land-Grant Trophy. For MSU, a win would give them 6 on the season and make them bowl eligible. Penn State kickoff is scheduled for 4 p.m.
Michigan State men's tennis concluded their regular fall season a few weeks ago in Ann Arbor. And before ending the year, they hosted the 3rd annual Capital City Tennis Classic at the MSU Indoor Tennis Facility, which began on the 13th and ran through the 20th. Players from over 20 countries participated in the 7-day tournament, which featured both a singles and doubles draw. 4 Spartan tennis players competed and earned ranking points for their professional rankings. Freshman Ozan Barris and David Say were able to reach the quarterfinals before falling to their opponents. Last Tuesday, Barris made his debut in the ITA Collegiate Tennis Rankings, entering the rankings at number 26 in singles. The last Michigan State player to earn a spot in the ITA singles rankings was Jack Winkler in 2019. Michigan State men's tennis will return to the courts for spring play in January.
Michigan State hockey traveled this past weekend to play number 6 Penn State for a 2-game series. MSU suffered a loss in the first game, falling 4-3 after the Nittany Lions scored a game-winning goal in the final minute. The Spartans bounced back in the second night, winning 7-3. MSU moves to number 16 in the USCHO poll after a split series with Penn State and will continue on the road to Miami, Ohio for a series this upcoming weekend. The Spartans will return home to play number 2 ranked Minnesota on December 2nd and 3rd.
Michigan State volleyball earned their 12th win of the season after sweeping Northwestern on Sunday afternoon. This was an improvement of last season's record of 11 wins. They will wrap up their regular season at home next week, facing Rutgers on Wednesday and Iowa on Saturday.
The women's basketball team took on Florida A&M last Thursday at the Breslin Center. Michigan State entered this game coming off an 85-39 win against Oakland on Tuesday, pushing their record to 4-0 on the regular season. Starting early on here in the first quarter, here's Dee Hageman moving the ball over to Kamaria McDaniel. Spartan spreading it around great and inside to Tyre Parks, who takes the one dribble and gets the and one finish to go. Parks finished with 8 points and 6 rebounds in this one. Moving on to the third quarter, here's Matilda Eck over to Kamaria McDaniel. Back to Eck, and she connects on one of her 4 3-pointers in this one. Staying in the third, here's Julia Aralt with a quick steal and outlet pass out to Moira Joyner, who fires it over to Abby Kimball for the easy layup. With the win, the women's basketball team improved to 5-0. Over the weekend, the Spartans defeated Central Michigan to remain undefeated.
Michigan State women's soccer season came to a close Friday afternoon after falling to TCU in the second round of the 2022 NCAA championships. The Horned Frogs came on top, scoring 1 goal against the Spartans. The Spartans completed the 2022 season with a 17-3 and 3 overall record, the most successful single season in program history. They also were the regular Big Ten Conference champions, going undefeated with a 9-0 and 1 record.
That's all the time we have today for this week's edition of the Spartan Sports Report. I'm AJ Evans.
And I'm Miriam Bingham. You can catch all of our shows on our YouTube channel and follow our social media to stay updated. From the SSR crew to you, stay warm, and we'll see you next week.